You're saying that the big meaning of life is to understand the source of suffering, the role of suffering, and how to correctly use it in order to truly reach a worthwhile goal. So the source of suffering is what? The essence of creation. It was created by that fulfillment, by that light that's about to fulfill it, and the light, the higher force, accompanies it, develops it, and only this way can we develop by the suffering. And the suffering eventually leads us to the question of what is the meaning of life, where a person has to rise above the flavors of food, sex, family, money, honor, knowledge, and understand that there is a complete and eternal fulfillment, which is what? That light which has created the suffering in its raw form. For it to fulfill my suffering, where the suffering is also raw. What does it matter? What do I suffer from? It's a deficiency. I'm lacking. So when I discover it, it's like now that we're getting closer to drugs. It's very similar. What's a drug? I want this and this and this and that. I take a drug. I don't want anything. The drug's role is to calm down the suffering. Yeah, the general suffering. Doesn't matter what or which. But it does it by confusing our mind and disconnecting different receptors in my mind. Well, special nerves there. Whereas the higher light, when it fulfills the desire, it grows it even more, develops it even more, and I want even more. And that higher light, which has created the desire, fulfills it even more. And then I reach a complete and eternal fulfillment where I reach a state where both the suffering and the light work together, and I don't annul the suffering. It's called the fulfillment in the middle line. Maybe we'll talk about this next time, that I keep the suffering. I develop it. I make sure that it remains. I don't want to simply fill it up and stuff it, no longer wanting anything. I want for it to remain and for me to constantly fulfill it and to enjoy the suffering and the fulfillment, like when we eat. Right, that sometimes we even want to feel hunger because we have a good meal waiting for us. Yeah, and drink a bit alcohol before that, to get an appetite, take a walk, talk about the food, so it'll awaken something in us. A person who has no appetite, he's miserable. We're concerned about him. So what does that have to do with suffering? Correctly, the correct use of suffering brings pleasure. Correct use of suffering brings pleasure, of course. Food, sex, family, that I have desires for it, money, honor, knowledge. How much people pay to have appetite for food, for sex, for family. That they want to get divorced, they want to leave, money, that I'll succeed, that I'll have, honor, it'll promote me in different things, I'll be appreciated in society and so on. Knowledge, meaning these desires are good. Don't calm them down. And I'm saying that each and every suffering that we have, look, if God forbid a person doesn't feel that there is some kind of a tumor developing in him, is that good? It's bad. Better for him to suffer. Then he'll take some tests, he'll discover it, and cure himself. Suffering has a very important role. Don't simply erase it, but use it correctly. This is what the wisdom of Kabbalah does.